Something a little different in the shop today. None of us are really snowplow guys, I guess, but this is probably one of the first ones that we put together. The Boss DXT, the angle blade here. We got the headlight kit and everything. So we got this one assembled. Took about an hour and a half, and it's going on this 2024, 2025, 2500 Denali. But we've got another one that's going on a Dodge, but it's the exact same thing for the assembly process for the blade itself. So we've got the two wings here. Mike and Joel's already laid out all our hardware. God, I love laying out hardware like that, and you can just find everything, know exactly where it all goes. We've got the center hitch here laid out. We've got another piece of the hitch, I guess. I don't know the technical terms for all this stuff. The center pivot mount, and the springs and the light bar. So we're gonna start with, I mean, luckily, you know, we've got a crane here that we can use to move this stuff around. I don't know how you do it without a crane or an engine hoist or something, but we're just gonna use the crane and we're gonna lay these wings flat on the ground. And then we're gonna get the center mount here pinned into that. So that's what we're gonna start with right now. So you can see how the wings line up, and then the center pivot position, or the center pivot mount goes in there. And on the other one that we did, this was kind of, it's not hard, but it was just probably the hardest part was just getting this pin and all the pieces here in the middle lined up to get that pin through. But once you get it started, it went through pretty easy. Using a bolt with a split washer. I don't believe it had a flat washer with it, did it? Okay, so now with the center pin, or the center mount, mounted with just a set pin that goes through there. Now we're going to put on the actual mounting bracket. Again, it's not super heavy, but why break your back when we got a crane to do this with? Joel's got the large pin here that just goes through there. So these threads require a little red Loctite. He's putting that on there now. And just a washer and a nut. So now the main lift cylinder will get installed, and that's just a pin and a little clevis there for
safety.
So next thing we're going to install is this bracket here for the springs. So it's dark down in here. I know you can't see, but there is a rod that's going to hook onto. Oh, there it is, right down in there. So hook that around, and then we'll just get our springs. And then there's an eye bolt, nut, and a washer. And that's 2, and we got 2 more springs to install here, and then we'll get them tightened down.
Tighten down this pin right.
So you can see that he's going to use a pry bar kind of in the eyelet here so that he can tighten down these nuts so that it doesn't try to spin on the spring. So there's not a spec really in the book for how far or how tight these are, so we just tighten them down. They're all going to equal about this. What's that, about 3/8 of an inch of threads down on the lock nut? So we'll just make all 4 match that. So now that we've got our spring and our cylinders installed, we're going to go ahead and raise the plow into the up position. There's an extra threaded hole here that we're just going to use a lifting eye on. And we're just going to flip up the whole plow using the crane. So next we're going to grab our hitch plate with the crane and we're going to put it to position on the mount and get it pinned in. So the hitch plate is going to mount using these pins here. Bolts, and I should have 2 nuts. So the bolts are what's going to go through the pin, just like that. So Joel just had to take the bolts back out of our hitch pins because we forgot to put the washers on the pin. So it actually has a washer, and then the mounting bolt can go on. So now using this pin, we can mount the top of the lift cylinder to the hitch plate.
Got it already?
The pin has to go through the other side.
It has to?
No, but it matches the other side.
So it does have to.
For my OCD's sake, it does. All right, you got it that time. Now we've got the wing springs that are going to use these 2 nuts, washers, and eye bolts. Joel's got it here, so it hooks in right to the top here. So the wing has got to be closer together, so Mike's going to lift it up a little more with the crane so we can swing the wings in. There we go. Much better. So there is a spec on this spring on how tight to get it, and Mike knows exactly how tight to get it.
That tight.
He's got a special socket that shows exactly how far it goes. So yeah, he's got the light on here. So what we're looking for is, the spec is 1/32 of an inch between the spring coils there. And the way that Mike uses his socket to bring that nut in is almost the exact perfect distance. Done. So next is our light bar mount, and we've got multiple holes, so we're just going to set it to where it come in from the other side. I'm sorry, from this way. Nope, let's go on the bottom one here.
Very bottom one. Don't you want to lift it up like this?
Nope,
Like that?
he's got it right, yeah. Okay. So we're going to go through that hole, come down. Nope, bring that down one more notch, sir. There you go. Right there. Okay. So again, no washers, just a bolt and a nut. You're too high here. Let's go down. And then just, yeah, perfect. And can you tell me the approximate torque spec you put that at?
Oh,
Good and tight.
check right here.
What does it say? 3? How many foot-pounds is that?
Pounds.
500. 550.
550
How many metric millimeters?
metric millimeters.
So now we're ready to put our hydraulic hoses on. So the two longer hoses that go to the wing cylinders has got this spiral wrap that we have to get installed real quick. And we'll notice that we've got two different size ends here. The smaller end actually goes to the mount side, the plow mount side. The larger end goes to the cylinder. So on the cylinder side, what we're going to do is use some pipe compound on the threads. We don't want to use a thread tape. You never want to use a thread tape on any hydraulic system, so we're using just a pipe compound there. So we only put that on the cylinder side, because on the hitch side, I'm going to pass this off to Mike. These swivel fittings, it's kind of hard to see, but they're
Right here on the inside.
yeah, on the inside, if you can see there, it's a tapered seat. So that's what seals in the fitting there. Mike, show me the end of that fitting.
Right inside there.
Yeah, the tapered fitting goes in, and that's the seal there.
It's like a reverse JIC, basically.
But on this one, where it goes into the cylinder, that's just an MPT thread.
So this hose too, this one is for that lift cylinder right there.
Uh-huh.
We've got one that goes into the cylinder, one that goes into the top here, and I got an O-ring boss for the bottom cylinder port, and then another one that's
Yeah, that's crazy how they got so many different fittings here, but none of the top ones will get pipe dope on them, and then this bottom cylinder port right here is O-ring boss, is what Mike was saying. So it's already got an O-ring on the hose itself. So again, Angel, do you know what the torque spec on those bolts were?
Tight enough.
Tight, say Gulten tight.
Guten tight.
Tight.
There you go.
Like the neighbor.
I don't know about that. You gotta bring the receipts.
Where are the receipts for the neighbor? You don't look at camera, no? Someone recognize you in Mexico? All right, so we gotta put on the side markers here. So the last 4 bolts and nuts that we had, we'll mount these into position. And again, no washers on that. Flip it around. There you go. Just nuts and bolts. While they get those installed, we'll take a look at the hoses here. So we've got the ones for the cylinders, for the left and right wing cylinders. We can see go to the outside ports, and then this port that's further in the back will go to the base end of the lift cylinder, and then this port right here goes down to the rod end of the lift cylinder. Now all we gotta do is get the mounts, or the lights mounted, and the wiring kind of run across here, and this plow will be finished up. So the light bracket he's just mounting, it just wraps around the bar here, and it just has one bolt in the outside for the light bracket, and then the light is going to sit over the top of that. So now the guys are just getting the lights mounted. You can see that they put on the bracket that we already put on the thing. I just kind of run the wires across. The zip ties are just loose until we get them actually plugged into the lights. And we'll make sure to use some dielectric grease before we actually plug these into the lights, and then finalize all our zip ties once we get everything set to length. And this is what the bracket looks like. Our bolts will just come up from underneath. And it just screws right into the bottom of the light itself. And our screws just use a split washer and a flat washer like that. So that's it. Once we get the lights mounted and the zip ties done, I think we're done, except for we just got 2 plow bolts that we got to put in. This is where it was for shipping. We just had to take the bolts out. So we'll get those put back in, and that's all there is to assembling the Boss DXT angle blade.